under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 6, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Sean, you call the roll, please?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Apache?
Yes.
Item number 7, superintendent's presentation.
Right, well, we have two presentations this evening for the superintendent's presentation. The first presentation is to recognize some very important people that we have in our district. So what I would like to do is I'm going to ask Todd just to share a few words about what this is for and why we're doing this. And then I would like to welcome some of these special people up to our front and to recognize each of them for some of the work that they have done to make sure that we are set for a safe year and a year that is like none other. So Todd, you want to share a little bit about what has happened throughout this summer since the spring, and then we'll get into it.
I would. It's actually with great pleasure to talk about these individuals tonight. They're some of my favorite people that I've ever met in my going on 25-year career. But yes, as soon as since COVID started, I think, 6 or 7 months ago, the folks to my left are custodians, our head custodians, our supervision of grounds and maintenance. They've not missed a day. They've been here the entire time. And you know what was amazing to me, while other school districts, because I talked to about 80, I would get a lot of comments about, man, our custodians don't want to be here. They're asking not to be here. I never once had one of our custodians make that comment. The only comment I ever heard is, all right, let's just go ahead and do what we're going to do for the summer. And if you walk through our buildings today, you'll see floors that look like glass. You'll see classrooms that are clean. And keep in mind, we only had 19 Mason custodians because we did lay off 2/3 of our privatized custodials. So it was just the people who have worked for Mason. And the takeaway for me from all this, honestly, you know, I'm going in my 5th year. Some of these folks have been here close to 30 years. Just the pride they showed in what it was to be a Mason Comment. We talk a lot about culture. We talk a lot about the different rocks. And I have to tell you, their example they set for me as a leader was incredible. It just really is. I couldn't ask for more. So with that said, Jonathan.
Yep, so I would like to take a second to recognize each of our individuals, and I'll call your name and have you come up to receive the recognition. So I'll bring these up here so you can hear it on the tape. We have Sandra Webb here. If you would come on up here, please. Thank you.
I'd love to shake their hand.
We will give you how about that right there?
Hey, Jonathan and Todd, could you remind roles just so we know? I mean, Sandra, I can guess what building you're in, which is near and dear to my heart. Yeah, fantastic.
Sandra's the head custodian at Mason Elementary.
Awesome.
Okay, so anyway, if you would stand right over here, and we'll get everybody just here for just a second. We'll try to keep our distancing as we can. Jason, if you'd come on up.
Jason is the head custodian at Central Office.
And Jason, you joined us Central Office.
It'll be a year, September 11th.
A year, September 11th. Yep. So congratulations, sir.
Jason's a big guy. He may knock us out.
We love having Jason at Central Office. Jason, if you'd be over here. I know Mel cannot be with us, but I do want to mention Mel. Mel is here at the high school.
Yes.
And he had other things going on. Kenny is also one of our great custodians over at MECC, and Kenny could not be with us tonight.
He actually had surgery today on his wrist, so keep him in your thoughts, because I'm sure he is a little uncomfortable at home about right now. He actually texted me and said, please tell the board, I'm sorry, I'm not there tonight. If you know Kenny, you know.
We'd like to, he does. We have to have Paul Cunningham come on up. So Paul, pretty sure, yep, come on over. Paul, congratulations. Thank you so much for your dedication and work. We'll give this to you, and we'll get you set up over here.
Paul got to lead taking care of the new middle school. So when you go into there, he polished that place up after construction.
Going through those hallways, it looks beautiful over there.
Even before construction was finished, right?
Jim Eckert could not be here as well because he was out as well with family at Mason Intermediate. Jerry Pennington, come on over. Thank you, Jerry, for all your hard work.
Jerry is the assistant supervisor of maintenance and ground. If you know Jerry,
you.
it could be
Thank
10
you, man.
o'clock at night.
Appreciate you.
You call Jerry and he's here. So there's been lots of nights that I look around and there's Jerry and George in the middle of the night.
That's right. And George, hi Phil, come on over, George.
George, hey, George was both of you were Mason students.
Have you
also.
stand right over here,
Not all
George,
of you.
congratulations.
Been a Mason student, actually coached football here, so he's done a lot of work with kids. And he's also the main person over all grounds and maintenance throughout the district. So, and I have to brag on George, when we had the bit of a fire on the dust collector at high school,
I remember.
George and Dwight Huff were present, and before anyone could think, they went and shut down all ventilation, any gas, anything we had. And when the fire department showed up, the first thing they said was, "That was great, thank you so much, that controlled this." So it just goes to show how well he knows the district and how committed he is to the district. So thank you, George.
So I will say Todd has framed this beautifully in the work that you've done and the work you do. And as leaders in our district, we talk a lot about what leadership looks like and what it looks like in classrooms, in the buildings, on grounds. And the work that you've done has not only set us up for success, but it's an exemplary, people look at Mason and their facilities, and they're always, when they come away, saying they're beautiful. And the reason they're beautiful and the reason they're safe is because of the work that you all do. So we are deeply grateful to all of you. I know you worked hard. You didn't take a day off through this whole event. There were a lot of uncertainties at the beginning, and you continued to go through. I think you were the first crew to wear your mask more than anybody else, and you really set the example for the rest of the district. And the confidence that we saw in you and the work that you were doing gave us a confidence to get our staff back in at central office and then into our buildings. So you really did set a great example for a whole district. So I appreciate it. So, and we do. And on behalf of the board, we thank you deeply. So let's give them a round. And I will tell you, I'm sure there are hundreds of people online clapping right now. Usually this would be a full room with students and everyone else. So I hope you know that.
Yeah, Jonathan, I just wanted to lead with some comments. Just say thank you again on behalf of the board and behalf of the whole district. I think when the whole COVID shutdowns began across the country and different states were starting to issue their orders and guidelines and things like that, one of the big buzzword terms that you started hearing popping up was essential workers. And to me, this is what, the epitome of that is, some people take for granted what it takes to keep a district like ours running smoothly and operating on a daily basis. But we are very appreciative of the work you all have done, and you are, on the front lines there every day for our students and our faculty and everybody in our district. So we're very appreciative of the work you all do.
Absolutely. And if I might add, absolutely nothing can happen in any of our facilities without you all doing your job. And our staff, our families, our students, we are all so blessed to have people that take such pride in their work. I've been on the board for quite a while, and it has always been a shining star in this district that our buildings looked so good. I remember back before we had the brand new buildings, the big new high school, and you all took pride in your work, and a couple of you, Jerry and George, we go back a long way. George, you were my son's first football coach his freshman year. You both take such pride in your work, and our community can rest very well knowing that you guys are taking care of the facility that our students are going to spend their days. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I don't wish to shake your hands. I wish I could give you all a hug. I really do appreciate you.
Well, Connie actually was asking Jonathan and I about this 3 months into the pandemic. When are we going to recognize the custodian?
Yeah, and this is, I remember back, you guys were doing all this before COVID. We were so well prepared for COVID in our buildings just because of the way you all did your work before COVID hit. Thank God we've got you now.
I'll tell a quick story because maybe somebody in here is responsible, or maybe you can direct me, but we haven't figured it out yet. But one of the things in the COVID-affected activity was graduation, and one of the things that happened was we lined the Mason Montgomery Road with senior pictures. And I know the answer, but I wanted to. I know. It's their fault. So it was just a handful of volunteers really that did it. Connie did a bunch of them. We all kind
I
of
broke
pitched
the
in
bunch.
to do it. And when we woke up the next day, we realized we put them in the wrong spot. 800 pictures on little poles. And we needed to move them across the little, easement over to the inside the sidewalk, as opposed to close to the road. So we took a deep breath and went back out there at like 7 a.m. and I get there and it's already done. So can we thank you for that publicly, because, that was a lot of work, but it also just was responsive. The city was a little squeamish about not knowing how that was going to work, and that was a big help to do that. So thank you for doing that. And I know it meant a lot to the seniors that were trying to salvage a bit of their graduation. And so to keep those up and keep them nice was really nice touch, and just a good example of how you go above and beyond, normal duties. So thank you for that.
I can't take credit for that, because I said I had the grounds guys do it. They took care of it all.
That's good leadership, though.
Please pass along our thanks, and if there's specific names, we'll add a touch to it, but we do appreciate that.
Kevin, that's actually a good story for what I was going to share, is that, we love the wonderful buildings, the amazing buildings, and they are beautiful, but, we're not in the business of having beautiful buildings. We're in the business of serving kids and families. And that's what your work is, and we can tell that that's where the pride in your work comes from. Of course, it's about the beautiful building, but it's having the beautiful building in good shape for our students and for our families. And so we just thank you for that heart of servanthood that you have for our kids. We know it, and we appreciate it, and our families appreciate it very much. So thank you and congratulations.
And I just to mimic what everyone else has said, your first impression is everything, and you walk in here and you smell that it's clean. And I'll tell you, you notice it so much more now. I mean, my daughter's so in tune to, Mom, it smells like bleach. It smells so clean. I love that smell, which is very odd for a 14-year-old, but growing up in this time. But our first impression is so good, and it's because of your hard work and dedication. And obviously you care about these buildings and the kids, and thank you so much.
Thank you all. Yep.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Being with us tonight.
Thanks, guys. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome to.
You guys have a list a mile long, and you've been here since 4 a.m. So.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay the evening, but we also respect your time. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming here tonight with us.
Thank you. I didn't say hi, but thank you for being here.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate you appreciating them. You don't know how many times, I gotta say this,
Thank you. Go ahead.
you don't know how many times I have pulled the turkey out of the oven on Christmas Day, and he's got a call.
Yeah.
He works really hard. He grew up in Mason. Our kids grew up in Mason. We're very proud of Mason. We're proud of the job you do, and I'm very proud of him, and I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you for coming.
This is one of those times where these masks are just, I love, we're wearing masks, but like nobody can see the smiles on our faces.
Yeah.
Put up over
Hopefully
my
you can
eyes
see it
for a
through our
second.
See my eyes tearing up, but you won't see my smile. Wow, that is really just, I love hearing that. I love hearing just the appreciation and the pride that the families take in what they do. And it's a good reminder, I think, before I start this next presentation while I gather my own emotions, but just a reminder that the work we do, our custodians, to everybody in the district, it's not just their work, it's the family work, and it's all the family behind them. And I know that for each of our executive team members that put in hours and hours this summer getting ready, along with our custodians and everyone else, and our teachers. They have families behind them that are just supporting them and friends. So always want to recognize that. So appreciative. Okay, that give me enough time to get my eyes clear and move on to our next presentation tonight. I'm excited to share this next piece of information with you as a board, but also just our community as our community tunes in and is able to watch this. But the next presentation is just to remind and orient people to the work that we have ahead of us. I know a lot of times we end up talking all about COVID-19 and what COVID-19 is bringing and all the logistics along with that. But I do have our presentation tonight, and because our technology, we just had a little bit of, I think it was lightning that actually hit our, I didn't share that with you, but that's
It's
why
like
our
our bit of a
technology's-
fire that Todd talked about.
It wasn't a fire, we had
little lightning.
little lightning hit
Roll
one
with
of
it.
our things, and so that's why we have a backup. And Christine and her crew are great about putting the backup quickly, but we weren't able to get all the systems working. So you do have a printed presentation in your packet for you to look at as well tonight. So the presentation tonight is really focusing on, this is going into year 3 of us talking about our 3 rocks. We're heading into year 3, and it's an exciting year, even though there is so many things that are going on. I think that's what makes it almost more exciting for us. We are the kind of staff and community that really looks at this as a challenge and says, you know what? We don't back away from challenges. We actually lean into challenges as opportunities for us to innovate, for us to begin thinking of ways that we can get better at our craft and get better at serving our students. And so we see this as an opportunity. And so the first thing I want to just remind people is that we have 3 rocks. We have the rock that's focused on culture, the way that the people of the organization, how we believe that we should do our work and how we behave as we do our work and how we work together as a community. We have the heart of our work, which is inclusive excellence, and that is just and I'll get into some of that, but it's the idea that when we see the world around us, that we understand that everyone does have a story, that everyone is bringing a different story, and that everyone matters in our organization and in our community, and that it's our job to make sure that we build environments of learning that are great and safe for all students and all families that come to our district. And then we have personalized learning, and personalized learning has been some of that core work that we do in the classroom when it comes to learning and instruction, and that personalized learning is all about putting the person at the center of that learning so that there's ownership in that learning. So just I always want to start with orienting us to those big rocks, and then we're going to dig into what does it look like this year. So every year, one of the things we do as a school district and as an organization is we use something called OKRs, which is Objectives and Key Results. You've heard me talk a little bit about that. If anybody's interested in learning more about Objectives and Key Results, there is a book out there called Measure What Matters. It digs into that deeply. But the idea behind it is it's our way to not only keep ourselves accountable as a leadership and organization, but it's also to be very transparent about how to focus our goals and our attention into the things that matter to us as a district. So you can see up here on the screen, I'll read it to you so you can hear that as well. But this year, our overarching objective as a school district is to make sure that each learner feels emotionally and physically safe, supported, and empowered to pursue worthy challenges. So what I'd like to do today is I'd like to dig in a little bit into this, what does that look like with our inclusive excellence work. I always want to remind us as we get into our work this year too, you heard me reference COVID-19 and the pandemic, so we have that as a layer. We also have the racial injustice and the different conversations and things that we've seen in images throughout the summer and the work, and working with our black families, working with our black colleagues and staff, and just making sure that we're being attentive to our student needs this year. And so that's a conversation that has been happening this summer. Some of the economic uncertainties that have happened throughout our world, all of those and many other factors are coming into starting this year. And so it's different than a lot of years because those are all open, wide open, raw conversations that are going on and work that were happening. So as we look at inclusive excellence, that big rock number 2, we wanted to talk about how do we take that and how do we move that into the next iteration. Another thing I like to talk about a lot is that we do not want to be a district that chases after initiatives. We want to be a district that just iterates and goes deeper into the work. So inclusive excellence, as we define it, is that deepening of the appreciation of diversity, that commitment to equity and inclusion and justice, and understanding what each of those things mean. So we unpack those for our students, for our leaders, for our staff members, to try to understand what does that actually look like and how does that play out in our classrooms. As we go into this year and we look at some of the key results, because remember, the objective is kind of the end game. The key results are the quarterly measures that we put in place to make sure that we are accountable. It's the yards along the football field as we're going towards the goal. The key result here, the first one, is that all staff and students learn and use the anti-bias strategies. So last year we talked a lot, and I always reference this because last year we got into something called Step Up to Bias strategies, and we carry this card around, and I always remind people, not this card, that's our E plus R equals O, but this card on the back of it, and it's a step up against bias, and we talked about what strategies we could use when we see acts of bias in our community. We have strategies like interrupt if you see something or hear something, question, ask questions, educate, echo. So these are some different things that we learned last year and we talked about as an entire staff. This year, we dig deeper and we look closer at some of the actual anti-bias, proactive strategies in order to own the moment and confront injustice as we see them. And what does that look like played out in our world? The other key result is establish a system to determine to what degree this is happening and that equity and inclusion are occurring throughout Mason City schools. So actually having a system that collects not only referrals, but outcomes, attendance, and some learning experiences that we have, but that when we see things that aren't right, we're able to report those, we're able to actually look at that, and we're able to get back and help people, to support people. The whole idea of a tool like this or a system like this is so that we're building the right supports at the right time to make sure our staff feels fully supported, make sure our students feel supported, and our families, and to make sure that we're tracking our progress and measuring what matters over time. The next thing you'll see up here is, as I mentioned earlier, some of the work that we did last year with the Step Up to Bias. We also have, we integrate our work. So you'll see us often take Big Rock 1, the culture work, when we talked about above the line and below the line behavior, which I think is, if you're not familiar with that and you're listening into this presentation tonight, above the line and below the line are such easy references for us to all talk about. So if you think through your day today, there were moments that all of us had moments where we felt like we were responding below the line on a moment. That's a response that could be better, a response that is below maybe your integrity line or below where you know is right for the crew. And so we catch ourselves in those moments and we get better. And hopefully as you build teams around you and hopefully as a family you're honest with each other and saying, hey, that's below the line, or you're admitting that to your team and holding yourself accountable to bring it above the line. And so you can see some of the things that we've now connected with that culture language and our Inclusive Excellence Rock. So that's in our presentation here and some of the work that we continue to do. Our next place here is the reporting and recording acts of bias. That's that tool or that system that we are working with. Now, we have worked closely with our teachers to get feedback on this most recently, and ask them to help us understand how does this tool become a useful tool in our organization for our students, for our families, and for our staff members. And so a lot of that is this tool is a place to report to make sure that people, if they see something, they can share. But it's also a place for us to record patterns. And so we can look at those over time. And so we've gained some great feedback on how to continue to improve this. And hopefully we'll be ready to share that out with others in the next, I'm hoping the next week or so that we can start to get that moving forward with our community so that we have a tool in place. Now this is a place for people to record and those things. We also have, and we always have had, the safe tip line. So safe tip line is something that we have always had. It's a standard place that you can report anything anonymously, or you can report that with your name. This tool also allows you to do that, but it also allows you to put your name in here so that you can actually ask for help and support. So if there's a situation that plays out, you're walking, if you're a kid or even a staff member and you hear something, you're like, I want to address that, but I'm not sure how to address that. This is a way for you to actually report, ask for help, and then we're able to come alongside and say, hey, here's something that we can do and a strategy that you can actually implement next time you're in that situation. And so many more. I'm just giving you some quick examples. The next piece is the investment, the inclusive excellence investments. I want to walk through some of the things that we've done to make sure that we're set up, because you invest in what you are, what matters and what you value. And so our second rock here in our inclusive excellence work, I'm going to walk you through the first part. So the first one is continuing to work with Catrice. Catrice is someone who comes to us from
the Hamilton County ESC. She used to be a teacher here, so some of you may know her as a former Mason teacher, but she is a phenomenal, gifted leader that comes in and works with our teachers, and she understands what's great about her as a consultant. She comes in and she understands the work that happens in our classrooms. She also understands a lot of the diversity and equity work that happens at a higher level, and she's able to bridge those together nicely with our teachers and work closely with us. So Catrice will continue to work with us as she moves forward this year, and we're excited about that, and so, in her team, and she has a team that she's building out there at the Hamilton County ESC. We also have a team of leaders here in the district, and so this team of leaders are the DEI leaders. So we have teacher leaders that lead work that's specific to curriculum and some instruction. We have DEI leaders in this case that are helping us with our diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and so each of these leaders are representatives from different parts of our district and different buildings, and they are teachers, but they're also stepping into leadership positions, and they're helping lead other teachers, and they're a resource. They're someone that people can go to as a safe person to help them with how do I integrate this into my personalized learning lesson? How do I design for this? How do I think carefully? And then others might be like, how do I work through this situation? And they help us with our professional learning development as well. So we're so grateful, and you'll see these folks throughout our district. Some of them are actually online instructors this year, so we have both in-person and online support as well. Well, at this time, I would like to take a second because we did create a anytime we have vacancies in any of our positions across the district, we always look at our total FTE count, our staffing. And so when we're looking at our staffing, we always make a decision, do we fill these staffing positions the way we had before, or do we retool this position? Do we think differently because of needs that we have in the district? And we've been talking about the concept of having somebody that comes along with our other LEDs, learning experience designers that we have in the district, and those are teachers on special assignment that are in leadership positions that help design innovative curriculum and personalized learning. They support teachers, but we've been talking about how do we get an influence into that work, specifically with an eye towards our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And so as we've thought that through over the last year or so, we had some really critical conversations this summer with some of our staff and our family, and it said, this is a need we have. We have teachers who want to do this work well in the classrooms, but we need help in terms of making sure we find the right materials, making sure that we find the right way to implement the materials, and to lead some of those really, really critical conversations to dig deeper into inclusive excellence. And so this year, I'm really excited to introduce Soraya Smith into a new position. It's the first time we've had this position, but this position will come alongside the other coaches into the DEI LED position. So at this point, I'd like to invite Soraya to come up, just introduce yourself, and so everyone can get to know you, and then at the end, they'll have maybe some questions or comments for you.
All right. Thanks for allowing me to be here this evening. I'm really, really excited to serve in this way. I've served as a classroom teacher at Mason Early Childhood Center for 12 years, and so my 13th year here is starting very different, but it's kind of nice. I'm in good company. All my colleagues are starting in a different way, so we're just, going in together and learning together. I will say, as my time as serving as a classroom teacher, I've built some really great relationships, and I think one of the best things about being a part of Mason is that it's a learning culture. And so my colleagues are always learning and trying to think of ways we can better ourselves for our students. And so it was just very natural for us to go on learning journeys together. And a part of our learning journey, before it was even a thing, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. I did get a chance to serve as a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader last year. And so that gave me the opportunity to be a resource for the colleagues inside of my building, and also kind of be a compass. A lot of people would come to me because they knew, you're the official DEI leader now. And so that was a lot of fun just to be able to support in that way. And then it was a responsibility that I really felt like I could step up and support my colleagues for this great work that we want to do. So being a part of that learning, being connected with my colleagues in that way so that they can better themselves for them students and just as humans, is just very rewarding. And I also approach this work from a personal standpoint as a mom I'm a mom of 4 children, and 3 of them are school age. We have a kindergartner that just started at Mason Early Childhood Center, and then our 3rd grader is at Mason Elementary. And I have to tell you, just on the parent side of Mason, being able to see my village, and that's what I call them at Mason Early Childhood Center, just care for my kids in that way, really wanting every parent to feel like that, wanting every parent to feel like the learning experience that their children are getting is one that is affirming and values them in an environment that is safe. So being able to support my colleagues and other learners that are, classmates of children that come into our schools is also rewarding, so professionally and personally. And I want to say that coming alongside a strong learning experience design team of coaches, I think back to March when, as teachers, we weren't drowning because we had lifelines, but our lifelines really were our learning experience designers, and just being able to be dedicated, supporting us in that way. It's so great to be a part of that team now. So I just want to thank you all for trusting me with this responsibility and for allowing me to continue to grow alongside my colleagues.
We may have some comments at the end of our presentation here.
Yeah, this is all kind of a new and brave frontier of presentation stuff, so don't take our silence right now. We're going to consolidate it all at the end, but we're all smiling along with you under these masks.
We're all smiling with good questions and thoughts or comments to come. So that's one example of how we're tying this back to our original, as I was reading the overarching statement at the beginning, the concept that each learner feels emotionally and physically safe and supported here at Mason City Schools. One piece of that is what you just heard us talk about, that we get the right support in place to support all kids in our classrooms and the learning experience. And so you heard Soroya's heart and how she's approaching that work, and we're excited to see that continue. And it's always exciting to see teachers in our district continue to grow and then grow into leaders and have influence. Our second example of this that goes alongside, as you've heard us, we're building out that DEI support team. We also, over the last couple of years, have been building out our mental wellness support team as well. So as you take a look here, some of the objectives that we have, or the key results, I should say, that feed into this, as you can see up on the screen, is that implement that continuum of instructional model rooted in the culture guide, inclusive excellence principles, allowing students and staff to safely engage in learning. And you'll see that whether they're fully remote, blended, or fully in person. So whatever the space or place that you're learning in, that we're being very intentional about supporting all of our families and all of our students. And I want you to know, if you're online learning, you have full access to, and I know that Nicole can share some of that with you, but that you have full access to our mental wellness team as well as our DEI team as well. And then the second key result here is that all staff collaborate and create school environments that reflect culture guide beliefs. So those culture guide that I always refer to, that this is a place that we actually live those out in our space, that people do feel safe to do that. The self-care, I know that there's been work that's been going on in preparation for this year. One of the big themes that I know Nicole and her team shared with our staff this year is the whole concept of the importance of self-care. Our educators are, as everyone knows, because it's the #1 topic across the news always, is that idea of returning to school. And, there's all kinds of conversations around that, and there's all kinds of beliefs around that, and there's all kinds of positions. But one thing we know for sure is that our educators are critical to our students, and we want our educators to be well. And that doesn't mean just their health and wellness when it comes to COVID-19. It just means taking care of themselves. And that goes for any year that we're here. And so self-care is something I know they talked about. And the other piece here, you see our friend over here, we also have a nice relationship that has developed with an organization called Circle Tales. And Circle Tales is something that Nicole brought to us, I think it was the beginning of last year, or maybe before that. And she was telling us, because we have some work that's done with Four Paws organization, which has been great, and they have a certain kind of dog that they prepare. And then Circle Tales is more of that therapy dog that's in the buildings. And this is Lucy right here. And You know, Matt Steele and I were doing a walkthrough today, and we got to see Lucy. I've gotten to see Lucy about every day. She's just a sweetheart, and she's in our building. And then we also have Hibbs, right? Hibbs? Hibbs is a little bit more energetic and active, I think, from what I can tell. Still adjusting to the new environment, but excited to see everybody. So those are two of our pups that are helping support that holistic approach to all of our students. Some of the investments in the 2020-21 year, I'm going to ask Nicole to come up and walk you through some of the slides that we have that lay that work out. But you'll see here as Nicole's coming up, I will say that just like I'm so excited to see Soraya lead this work that she's leading, it's exciting to see what Nicole has been able to do over the last 3 years that she's been really visioning this. I mean, she's been helping us get a vision for mental wellness for a while, but over the last couple of years, she's just built the team and taken off. So, Nicole, thanks so much for your hard work and leadership in this, and I'll let you share a little bit about the investments.
Yeah, well, first I'd like to say thanks to the board, the district, and the community for supporting this work. This is not the work of a lot of school districts. I think it's going to become the work of a lot of school districts over the next 5 to 10 years for sure. But Mason definitely was ahead of the curve on that. As Jonathan said, this is our second full year in, or at the start of our second year, I should say, in designing the mental wellness team. So what you'll see on that first page is our district team. So that we have 3 coordinators on the team and then 1 resource coordinator, and I'll tell you just a little bit about that. So Laura Martin is our coordinator at MECC. She serves K2. Brianna Lynch is at MEMI, and Molly Schmidt is at the high school. I actually coordinate for the middle school as well, in addition to the other role. And the coordinator's main role is to coordinate the mental wellness of students, staff, and community members within their buildings. So they are really the center person for coordinating all of the supports, whether that's counseling supports, outside agency supports, financial supports. During the shutdown during COVID, the team switched almost immediately into a social service team in which they were able to make sure that our families' basic needs were met during COVID in a way that I can assure you other school districts weren't able to wrap around their families in that same way, and they were amazing during that time. It really was the perfect year to have put a team together. Dawn McCorkle is new to us this year. She actually and Molly Schmidt are switching roles. Molly was our resource coordinator last year, and she's moved into a mental wellness coordinator role at the high school. And Dawn is coming to us from a partnership with Warren County ESC. She's our social worker that will serve K-8, because Molly is also a social worker, and she will take on the social work role at 9-12 as well. So we are super excited to have Dawn. Dawn will be doing basically outside agency resource support. So that looks like when families call one of our coordinators and need something that we can't control or support in-house, how do we find agency support outside of the district to support those family needs? So that's the team. And then we're going to move into the second part of our team, which we are super excited to announce this year that we have partnered with Cincinnati Children's Hospital and their clinical school-based therapy teams to serve K through 12 this year. That is something we've had in the works for a while, and it's finally come to fruition. So we are building out that team. And so on the next page, what you'll see is kind of the structure of what the team is that we have in place currently. So Emily Meyer has been with us. This will be her second year as the clinical supervisor. So she supervises all of the clinical staff. Next to her is, on that sheet, is Julia Leary. Julia Leary is our nurse practitioner from the Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at Cincinnati Children's. She is with us 1 full day a week. And she will be providing medication management services to our students who are enrolled in school-based clinical therapy. Those services will take place on site, actually at the Mason Middle School is where her office is. And she will be serving students and families during the school day so that we cut out the need for families to travel to another appointment after school or to have to work around work schedules and those types of things. So that has been a great add to our team. The other 7 members are our clinical therapy team. So right now, we have 4 clinical therapists at the high school, 2 at the middle school, and we are just starting with K-6 because that was our new investment this year. So K-6, we have 1 therapist, and the way that will work is that as soon as those referral lists get high enough that her caseload is full, we will onboard another therapist. Our hope is that by the end of this year, we will have 10 total clinical therapists across the districts, and then we will spread them out evenly where the need is. The nice thing about having children's at K-12 is that we can flex those clinical therapists to where our need is at any time. So they are Mason, they're here every day, 5 days a week, they have offices in the district. So wherever we have a need, we're able to pull them to, which has really been great. In addition to those 2 teams, I'll just mention really quick, there wasn't a slide, we also have 21 amazing school counselors, and the school counselors have been just a amazing support for families over the last 6 months, and so I don't want to leave them off. They are also part of our mental wellness team. The next slide is actually just another collaboration with Cincinnati Children's. The WISA app we sent out to our entire district earlier this week, and we just wanted to highlight it for families who may be watching. But it's an app that you can use at home. It's a free app, and it has been being used across the world, really, by children and adults. It really is geared towards 13 and up to work on a variety of mental health concerns. But in collaboration with Cincinnati Children's, they put together a COVID anxiety aspect of that app. So for our students and families, teachers who are having some difficulties with the return to school and the return to normalcy, that really has been there's been a lot of positive reviews in using that with either their children or themselves. And then our ongoing partnerships. So we have a ton of outside agency partners, but these are our 4 main partners that we use. So Mindpeace and 1 in 5 are community agencies that help the school to ensure that we have the right supports in place. So they really track our needs and conduct needs assessments, hook us up with, for instance, Cincinnati Children's. They kind of collaborate with the outside agencies to make sure that we have the supports that we need. They also provide professional development for our staff. So last year we were able to bring in several very well-known speakers to speak with our staff and our families during some community conversations, and that was in collaboration with 1 in 5 and Mindpeace. Hope Squad is our peer-to-peer suicide prevention program. This year we are super excited to be able to grow that program a little bit more with hopes of a rollout at the middle school next year. We are super excited to have a new teacher at the high school that is teaching the Hope Squad class this year in collaboration with Hibbs, one of the therapy dogs. He will be our Hope Squad mascot. And then Joshua's Place is our agency support for families who struggle with a variety of poverty-related needs in the community. They help us with our weekend meal program. They help us with our Mason Cares, which is like a holiday help program in the fall. They've helped with school supplies. And during COVID, they were absolutely amazing at supporting our families all summer with meals and support. And on that, the last thing I want to say is I also want to mention Casey Moran and her work that she did for our district during COVID. So right up there with Joshua's Place, she and her group of Girl Scouts did an amazing job at making sure that our families had the supports they needed during the shutdown as well. So those are some of our ongoing partnerships. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Jonathan.
So tonight you've heard us highlight 2 aspects of how there are many things that we're doing as a school district to make sure that we are back to our main message tonight, that we are supporting our objective this year, and that is each learner feels emotionally and physically safe, supported, and empowered to pursue worthy challenges. When we talk about learners, we're talking about all of the members of our organization, whether you're a student walking in, you're a teacher learner, you're a parent learning along with us. And these are 2 beautiful examples of leadership in those roles, in teams and systems that we're trying to build out to support the actual work. Other partners that are helping us alongside, you'll hear us talk more about, whether it's the Warren County Health Department, whether it's doctors, whether it's our police department, whether it's, you'll hear us talk about partnerships all the time. Tonight you heard two great examples of specific things that we're working on to address things that we know that are needs right now. So at that, I'll stop, and then if the board has any comments or maybe some clarifications, that'd be wonderful, and I'll turn it over to them, to the experts, to answer those if they need to.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. I will just lead with a comment, and then I'm sure we've got some other comments from my fellow board members. First of all, thank you, Soroya and Nicole, for being here tonight. We're so excited to walk alongside you in these roles and to hear about the good work that you have been doing and will be doing going forward for our district. I think that, you know, with all of the things we have going on in the world, in our country, and in our community right now, the timing of your, you know, acknowledgement and just emphasizing the work that you are doing and growing in our district is really great. I think that this is a unique opportunity. You know, we've found lots of silver linings in the last several months with the way, you know, the coronavirus and things have forced us to adapt and change how we deliver Mason quality education to all of our students. And as Jonathan was talking about with the learning experience design position, being able to take an existing position and adapt that based on what our needs in the classroom are now and how they've kind of shifted and changed, and coinciding that with, as you mentioned, going deeper into the work that we've been doing rather than chasing after initiatives, but iterating the work that we've been doing. I think it's just really great that we're seeing that, you know, move consistently and as Nicole mentioned, kind of stay ahead of the curve in some respects with both the diversity, equity, inclusion lens and with our mental health and wellness work. So I will open it up to my fellow board members for their questions and comments as well.
I'll start off. I had the pleasure of speaking with you, Nicole, a while back about mental health in our schools and what a big need that is everywhere. But you were there, and Jonathan's vision provided for you to be there. And I can see from your presentation tonight that many of the goals that you were shooting for, you're able to accomplish. I think that we were concerned at the time we didn't have enough individuals properly trained to meet the needs that our kids have. And I think that this is going to allow that to work so much better. And when COVID hit, I heard so many people say, oh, well, I'm sure Mason was better prepared than what our district is. We're having to limp along with this, or reaching the therapist that my child was able to work with at school. That can't happen now, or we're trying to do some video with that and that's not really working. I think that we have, with our forethought, I think that allowed us to be so capable. And even with COVID being this threatening obstacle that everyone's having to maneuver around, I can see that you, your team, and thank you, Jonathan, you've all done a great job with it. And so, Roya, I have not had the pleasure of working personally with you or having personal conversations with you, but as I listened to you speak tonight, I could tell that you have a heart for the work, and you have it in your mind and as a process for the way you work. You're a team player, and you're going to bring people along with you, not having to wrestle them to the ground and drag them with you. I think that's going to make you a great individual for that job. I noticed you kept saying that I had individuals come to me in the role I filled last year, and it's really prepared me, and I've been able to build some rapport and relationships. So I'm very excited about what you both are doing, its impact it's going to have on the district, and the impact we're going to have regardless of what COVID would like to throw in our way. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here tonight to share.
I'll say a couple things to start, to echo one of the things that Charles mentioned. You know, Jonathan, I just want to thank you on behalf of the entire district for the consistency of the message and where we're going. I mean, there's a lot of thought processes, there are a lot of people coming up with a lot of ideas about how to make our schools great. And so and a lot of people who want to make our schools great and want to make sure that they're tapping into whatever the best resources there are and the best ideas to do that. And so I think there's a tendency sometimes in education to chase the next best thing, and to just kind of be afraid that you're missing out on the next best thing and we need to change it up and here's this new thing. You know, I'm married to a teacher and I've heard her over the years lament that, well, this thing they didn't give it a chance to work, right? We didn't even let it play out to see how it worked, and now we're trying something completely different. And I think the way you described it is perfect, that we're not reinventing anything, but they're iterations, that we're sitting with this, that we're really diving into what these things mean for us, and then creating it together as we go with one vision, not coming up with, chasing the next shiny thing. And you also talked about the interconnectivity of the three big rocks, and I think about that a lot. When I didn't really understand much about what personal learning really meant, but the thing that I've been struck the most with over these past 3 years is just how interconnected these things are, and how that personalized learning over time is the key to educating our students and making them lifelong learners and doing what they can do, but that you can't accomplish personalized learning without understanding who our students are and appreciating who they are and making it safe for them to figure out who they are and help us to figure out how they are and how to equip them as we go along. And so I want to commend you and the entire staff and administration for setting a vision and keeping with it and building that over time. And Soroya, I have had the joy to have a personal connection with Soroya Smith. She was my daughter Ainsley's second grade teacher, and so you stole one of the words that I had planned on talking about with you, with Soroya, was that your deep appreciation for relationship and what that means for the mission of this work and the mission of life generally. You more than anybody else in my life, honestly, have taught me how important relationship is, and that none of the things that we want to accomplish as educators, as administrators, as a board, as parents, mean anything without relationship. And so this important work that we're doing couldn't happen without relationship, and I just couldn't be any happier to see you taking on this role, because that is what you will bring to this position for all of us, and so we just can't wait to see what you do. So congratulations, and Nicole, thank you so much for all that you continue to do. You're exactly right that I think we can say that about a lot of our work in these three big rocks, is that thank goodness we had done this work or this work, and so thank you so much.
Nicole, I just wanted to comment first. I love the puppies in the school. I think that has to be such a mental health boost for the kids. I mean, you can't help but see those dogs and smile. So I think that was just a wonderful addition.
I kind of want to stop by.
I know, we do.
Good, too sweet.
And one of my first contacts as a school board member was at a committee meeting where I got to interact with some personal learning experience designers. And I was so impressed. And little did I know, 2 months later, we would really be leaning hard on that program to guide us through, the pandemic and remote learning. So like you said in your presentation, we were ahead of the curve. And because of people like you and this team, we didn't get caught like a lot of our districts did, sadly, and we were able to transition into remote learning, and because of all the work that was done prior to, and without the knowledge of, what was coming down the path for us. So just a proud moment for you and the administration and the teachers, and being prepared for what may come, and you have no idea. And Soroya, I've heard so many good things about you. My conversation with Jonathan and, of course, Matt sings your praises, and I feel like we are very blessed to have you in this position, and the relationships that you'll build to just make this program so strong, and it's such a good time to bring you on. It's just what we need, and You're just going to make us greater than we are now. So thank you for taking on this challenge.
Yeah, Soraya, I'll just start with you. The opportunity really to invest in this is our pleasure because when we can do it with a person that's built the relationships that you've built and that's become acclimated to the unique challenges that we have here through your own experience, both as a teacher and as a mother, I think sets you up perfectly. And I think our team, leadership team, for always taking an opportunity to invest in our young educators, because you never know what they're going to have an opportunity to tackle. And so really, really proud of you and glad that you're here and glad to be investing in your work. And so looking forward to learning more as we go on that. So thank you. And Nicole, I've had a chance to see you up close and personal in some key moments, and I know your toughness and I know your commitment to all of our students, and especially in those kind of urgent moments that are so important in how the trajectory of their lives may go forward. So I appreciate that commitment, and I'm always pleased to see your leadership as well and how you can form a team and inspire a team of partners and in a more complicated web of relationships to have the effect that you have. So thank you for everything you do, and we're pleased to invest behind you as well. So thank you.
And I'll just kind of get to use my executive privilege to do 2 dips at the at the pool here. Seeing you both up here and hearing Jonathan kind of talk, it feels like yesterday that we were introducing you to the district, Nicole, and just 3 years have just kind of gone like that. And in this role, it's amazing how time flies when you're sitting up here. And Soraya, I feel like the last time I just blinked and you were just talking to us about World Play Day or getting outside and stuff with your colleagues at MECC, and now we're taking on some greater challenges and greater opportunities for growth in our district, and I'm so excited for your all's willingness to embrace these challenges and the responsibilities that come with them. So thank you again for being here. Like Kevin said, it's our pleasure to support you in these roles. And Jonathan, thanks for the presentation.
Thanks for having us, and thank you for listening to both celebrate leadership in our custodial service as well as leadership and all the work that these 2 great leaders are going to take us through. So thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is the hearing of the public. I don't believe we have any participants tonight, so moving along. Item number 9, resolutions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This resolution basically authorizes the district to file a proof of claim against Purdue Pharma. So basically, Purdue Pharma is the manufacturer of OxyContin. And as part of their bankruptcy proceedings, governmental entities around the country had the opportunity to file a proof of claim to potentially get some dollars back from some of the extra costs that the district has had to spend over the last several years as a result of some of the effects of OxyContin. So this doesn't guarantee us any money, but allows us to at least attempt to recoup some of those dollars.
Thanks for being on top of this, Sean. I understand we probably aren't holding our breath on the riches that are supposedly out there, but thanks for holding our place in line and preserving this opportunity for us. Any other discussion? Sean, call the roll.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 10, non-district funded positions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
There's a lot of things on this list that are worth highlighting, but one I just want to point out to you, I think it's on item C for the 2021 Band-Aids that show up every year. don't, these are volunteers that get just a little bit of support from the district, but they do a mountain of work for the band group and our marching band this year. I just have to say, we talk a lot about leadership, but they have led the way and showed us so many things that you can do that's possible when you actually take the time to plan safely. And our band students have been meeting all through the summer and into now, and they have some big things planned ahead, and you get to watch their leadership. So I just want to thank the Band Daisies parents for all the work they do to support our kids as well.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any further discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 11, certified personnel superintendent's recommendation. I'm going to parse out here item A in this section. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And Jonathan, for the discussion piece of that, can I kick it to you?
Yeah, so on item A here, we are basically approving tonight the job description of, you heard Soraya talk about some of the work that she's planning on doing. So we've been working this summer on an interview process, and Soraya is the one that made it through the process for this specific job. So this job description has been created this summer, and we were asking for approval tonight because it is a new position to move forward on that work that you heard about tonight.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any additional discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
All right, and on to items 10, or 11B and 11C, or I'm sorry, yeah, items 11B and C. These are the appointments. And then the leaves of absence. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? So in the prior motion, we adopted the job description, and now we are appointing Soraya for that position. All right, Sean, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 12, certified adjustments of salary, superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
We just congratulate, you heard Troy mention that we're a learning organization, and we continue to support our teachers as they continue to improve and extend their learning experiences through college and masters and beyond. So just want to recognize their hard work.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 13, supplemental personnel, superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Again, there's a lot under this agenda item, and it's a lot of great work that's going on. But one I want to point out to you is at the beginning, and I'll give a lot of credit to Tanya and her leadership and Maria and their work together, but you'll see on here there are things that say MECC supplemental deletion, and then it says MECC supplemental addition. So what's happening there is they're going through carefully and making sure that we have the right appropriate roles for those positions. So you'll see that they're moving in and right sizing that in each of our buildings. And so again, it's another example of us not just filling to fill and doing things just because we've always done them, but it's to look at that carefully. And I know there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to get that right. And so I want to just thank Tanya for her work, and Maria, I know, worked with you on that. I'm sure there's others along that have worked on that as well. So just want to point that out because you'll see that on there. I didn't want that to be confusing, but that's what's happening there. We're deleting some and right sizing those to the right.
Thanks, Jonathan. And I see a lot of extracurriculars involved with this item. And as we know, we've got option 1 and option 2 students, and those students who've opted to learn remotely and are online this semester are equally able to participate in these clubs and activities just as well as the students who are coming in person. Is that right?
We welcome them to join us. So if you're online and you're learning and you would like to connect to one of our extracurricular activities, reach out and we'll get you connected in.
All right, any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 14, resolution for hiring non-certified supplemental personnel. Superintendent's recommendation, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 15, classified personnel superintendent's recommendation, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Now, I want to take just a second on A. There's that resolution to suspend classified staff in this specific role. What happened here is when COVID-19 did start to impact our daily rhythms, one of the things that impacted right away was the daycare opportunities that we were able to offer here in the district, and so that shut that down because there were some stipulations they put on it. When we went back to revisit that this year, the daycare option was one we worked with our staff to see who would want to do that at the cost that it would cost us to do that, and that's for staff. And overall, we heard that that was not going to be a major need enough in order for us to support that moving forward. So we did suspend those roles, but we also then went around, and I know Tanya met with each of them to offer them other positions in our district. So everyone's had an opportunity to work in the district if they choose to do that, and some have found other opportunities as well. So we did work with our employees. We didn't just stop it and then not work with them, but we did work through that process. It's been a very, it's hard to have a positive experience sometimes when you suspend something, but this was, again, I'll give Tanya credit for her.
Is that indefinite, or is that something that you'll revisit once?
We'll definitely revisit it, and if it's a need that we start to hear about, we would go back and look at reinstating this and moving forward with that. But it's not something that has been an immediate need right now, based on what we've had. And Tanya, did I capture that okay?
All right, any other discussion?
I do see retirements on here. I always want to just thank people for their work, if they are retiring, and, at this point in time, we're choosing that option, or resigning, going to other options. I just want to thank them for their service here and wish them well as they move to the next chapter.
Thanks, Jonathan. Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 16, certified personnel, additional duties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
The only thing I'll point out here is one of the ways that we were able to creatively begin to be more, when we brought our budgets down and the spending down, we had to look at everything we were spending on, and one of the things we did was we took any consultants that we had that we were bringing into the district, and instead of continuing at the levels that we were investing in those, we went and looked at how could we invest in people in our district to help continue to lead the work in the Big Rock work. So you'll see on here, there's culture leaders on here, there's DEI leaders, which you saw me reference earlier, that whole team of folks, and there's also that professional development at the bottom. That is specifically has always been in place, but we kind of right-size those as well so that they're actually supporting the work that they're doing instead of just having one person do all that work. So that's all built into different stipends and supplementals, but that's how we just show that to all of you and to our public that we're investing in those things, but it's a much smaller scale on our professional learning than we did in the past. Significantly.
It's exciting to see the culture leader team and the stipends recognizing that work, and we recognize a lot of the names on there that are going to do fantastic work
They're outstanding.
on that rock stars.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 17, classified personnel, additional duties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 18, new and revised board policies. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
just a reminder of the process that we go through. So we go through a pretty thorough process leading up to the first reading, and we talk about that each time we do that, just to remind people of what that process looks like. And then we go into the second reading, and so that's tonight. So as you go into a second reading, typically that's when you would vote for this. So on this first section, we'd be voting on that. The second section on here is B, and that is new policy. And I'll just point out to you that typically we would also, again, go through a whole second reading on that. But because these are time sensitive and things that came out with COVID recently, we have to waive the second reading and move forward on those. But we did discuss those as a board at our last work session, and then again at this work session coming up. So we've had time to review that and waiting for guidance from the state, for example. But that's how this process typically works. But some of these are being asked for us to do those now. For example, the non-discrimination policy, that's something you have to have in place to move forward in the school year. So Tanya and her team got everybody on board and trained quickly, so we all went through that training. That was one of those things we were asked to do. We did that, and then we also have a policy updated in here as well. So just so you understand the second reading versus the new policy.
Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 19, action items, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I will just point out there is a lot here again. And if you are just tuning in, we do go through this carefully as with the board president. As a board, we look through these ahead of time. You'll see on here different things like, I'll point out a couple just so you know what's on here. You heard us refer to Hope Squad. Well, we have a Hope Squad agreement that's on here as item N. We have the Hamilton County ESC is a consortium. They help us get consortium pricing for our school's PLP, which is the online platform. And I didn't reference this, what I should have in an earlier item, but there was summer curriculum work that was done with Amy and her team, and that work was specifically, we have a little different model for our online learning for our K-6, where we actually brought our staff, we had them apply, and so we have staff members that are developing the online curriculum for our K-6, and we're doing that in-house. So that's our platform, our curriculum, our approach, and that's what the summer work was. And then for the high school, we looked at that option, but there's so many things we offer at our high school. It was hard for us to recreate that the way it was, so we invested in the school PLP, which we understand is not perfect and the perfect solution. It was the best solution for the resources and amount that we could invest in that at this time. And then we have a teacher that's also assigned to that. So you'll see different reference points on here. Apex, item P, as in Paul, that right there is an example of where we looked at the one platform, the school's PLP. It did not offer all of the AP courses that we wanted to offer for our students, because we heard from our students saying, hey, that's fine, everything's fine on here, but I need these other courses, but I still want to do the online options. So we invested some for some of those classes as well. So that's also demonstrated on here. And there's other things on this, and we'll go through every one of them, but I just wanted to highlight some of those. I know Sean has an item on here as well for forecasting, which is for the 5-year
Yeah, this is our software that we'll use to put together our forecasts for November and for next May.
So, if there's any question anyone would have about any of these, even after today, I'm happy to walk anybody through some of these. Some of these are, at the beginning of the year, we do lots of agreements with either Warren County ESC or Hamilton County ESC, and it's students with special needs who are assigned to different school settings, and some of that all shows up at the beginning of the year. So that's an example of that.
But you do see some of the items on here that are COVID related, and so true out-of-pocket expenses that wouldn't have appeared on any forecast that we would have done.
It's a great point. Like even the
Even in
online
May.
learning is a great example of investments that we are making to make sure that we have choice for our families, but it's not something that we ever could have imagined. We were going through last year that we were launching an online school as well.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the volume of items on this portion. You know, this is, to anybody that is not a regular viewer of our board meetings and is just kind of tuning in casually, or this is the first time, we do go into these items in depth, both I, work with Jonathan and our treasurer, and then we have work sessions that we go over these contracts and agreements, then we all have an opportunity to review them prior to our board meetings and discuss them. So appreciate your all's work in bringing these together and organizing this for us to review, and for also just the work it takes to get all this stuff in place as we start, again, an unprecedented school year, and making sure that things run as smoothly as possible.
But also not taking our eyes off the things we talked about earlier. So you see some of the investments that you spoke about earlier right alongside those. So thank you.
All right, with that, any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
All right, item number 20, treasurer's report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just a quick note on here, one of the things to point out, in the donations section, we routinely accept monetary donations from different individuals and organizations, and we appreciate those. One of the things that was mentioned here earlier tonight, I think Nicole mentioned Casey Moran and the comment cupboard and some of the work that they do. There are some donations on here to further support that work. They've done a lot of, just done a great job of helping put together supplies and things for students and families in need in the community, especially over these last few months. And so we appreciate those donations. And then also one that we don't see very often, we do appreciate Southbrook Christian Church donating surgical masks and face shields and gloves and other kinds of PPE to help support, again, what we're doing here in the district. So thanks to those people and organizations who have donated.
Thanks, Sean. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 21, committee reports.
Just quickly on the Finance Committee, we met a couple of weeks ago just to stay close to the fast-changing decisions that I know that we're having to make that often might not happen in between board meetings, but typically might be pushed out a little bit longer. So Charles and I met with Jonathan and Sean, and we're just very pleased to see the agility that you're demonstrating while you're taking on the options you're trying to think through, how to keep our spending, appropriate, but also recognize that opening is the priority, and certainly it seems like we're demonstrating those priorities properly within our spending as well as the day-to-day activities. So that was the purpose of that meeting. I don't think we had any other key topics discussed, but appreciate that work.
I'll echo, yeah, I think the balance that you guys have been able to strike between doing what is necessary and best practice for keeping our students and staff safe coming back, balancing, those health and well-being interests with fiscal responsibility and, being smart and responsible, but with where we're investing, the timing of our investment, getting stuff far enough in advance that we're not panicking on the eve of school starting. We're well prepared, and we've got everything that we need to make it a successful start to the year. And then we just lean into our community and trust that people are going to make smart and responsible decisions and keep us all moving smoothly this year. So again, appreciate you guys doing that. Let's see, Mason Schools Foundation had a meeting.
Yeah, there was a board meeting last Wednesday, provided updates on a lot of awesome things that are happening in the district from the foundation's perspective. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Lena Patel and Brian Doran, okay, who worked, am I forgetting anybody else in the school supply drive? Okay, who spearheaded the foundation's school supply drive this year. It's one of the many things that looks different in a COVID world, and so they did a great job of kind of shifting gears and thinking through how we could make sure that some kids' needs are met without everybody showing up and literally stuffing a bus and dropping things off and that sort of thing. And there's a great support from the community, making donations of money, but also purchases directly from Amazon. There were a lot of people who helped to actually stuff the supplies into backpacks, and I know that there are a lot of families who are really appreciative of that work and the support from the community as we got off to a great start to a school year. One thing that I was going to bring up in the context of your update, Jonathan, was that we know that the foundation does so much work to support what's happening in the schools. They don't do their work in a vacuum. They truly are there to support what is already happening in the schools and help us to take it above and beyond, right? So inclusive excellence is one way that the foundation is really excited about finding ways to support that work at this time in the district. They really see the value of that work in the context of our world right now, and they're just stepping up in so many ways that we would expect. And one really exciting way is that we've all heard about the Catalyst grant, and Tracy or Jonathan, you could probably speak to some examples of things that have been done, but they've made the decision this year to sponsor a Catalyst grant and take ideas around the work of inclusive excellence in the district. So a Catalyst grant is meant to do heavy lifting on something in the district and really help to take it further. And so it's a step up of support. They do the classroom grants, but this is a bigger grant meant to make a bigger impact district wide. And so really excited to see where that goes and what that looks like in the district. Tracy, do you want to fill in any details or any other things that were discussed?
Yeah, that was a great example. Really, like I think years ago, the idea of the Catalyst was that sometimes there are these incredible teachers who are already, they've got these ideas that are just gelling and they're ready to go forward. And then those are kind of like pioneers. And then sometimes there's just kind of that next rung of teacher that is really excited, wants to do things, but sometimes having a frame helps. And so the Catalyst, and this year having it along with inclusive excellence, we have so many teachers who want to do the work and who want to be involved, but having a little bit around it. And so one of the grants that we supported in the general pool this year is, for instance, a long time, a really well-known, terrific author to come and do a whole book study at MEC. And that author would be there. So it's things like that. By giving people some examples, you kind of broaden that reach.
Yeah, fantastic. And some of the general pool first round of grants too in the classroom, meeting the needs where we are and meeting the work that's happening in the schools right now. A lot of ways to help teachers, ideas the teachers had to help make this new learning environment work great for students in our new social distancing reality. And so some of those grants are right now supporting some of that work and helping those changes. So thanks again to the foundation. And one of the other big changes for the year, of course, is going to be their gala. Usually we're in person at the Manor House. That's not possible this year, unfortunately, but the team leading the gala efforts are really going out of their way to think of new and creative ways to help maybe at the end more people feel engaged and in the work and to experience that. So look for details on that to come.
Thanks, Matt. Mm-hmm. All right, item number 22, legislative update.
I'll just share some brief updates that I'm aware of. The General Assembly is planning to come back at some point in time briefly to look at some specific bills that are being proposed, and one of them is going to be another one for education specifically that is addressing everything going on. So, for example, today I was on a call with superintendents from around the state trying to get on the same page on what recommendations we have for the governor's office and also for our legislators. And one of those suggestions would be, okay, so the question was, what do you do about testing this year when you have some school districts that are completely online, you have some students online, you have some students in person, we have KRAs, we've got all these requirements from the state testing. So the line was silent for a moment, and I just am trained well with our team to just speak up when there's that space and say, you know, you could just leave that to local control this year, and we could prove to you that we actually don't mind accountability. We actually like accountability, but we would like to have influence on how we move forward on that with testing, and then maybe you reopen the conversation about what does appropriate testing look like for students across the state, and then save money and spend some of that money on supporting some of the work that we're doing. So that's one example of a conversation we're having, and giving that back to our General Assembly. So they're coming back into session to look at that. They're looking at some other COVID specific things that apply to anything from capacity and different spaces that we have to testing to just timelines for our evaluation with our teachers. So they're going to look at all that again. So that information will come out soon. I also had just a great privilege to speak to a few people this week. One, the governor and lieutenant governor, about athletics and how those are going to be coming back into session, and how we're excited here at Mason City Schools that we have athletics in place, and that our coaches have done just a fabulous job of planning and making sure that we have safe environments for our kids and students. So this, and then we talked about how to get spectators in, so we're going to have parents and guardians and caregivers to be able to come and watch their kids play. And that's something we're really excited about doing. So that starts up this week, and Todd and his team have helped a lot with the athletic directors. So that was a conversation we had. We also had a conversation with Steve Shabbat stopped by this week, the office, to just talk about what is the financial impact. And so Sean and I got to sit down and share with Congressman Shabbat just about this is the overall hit that we're taking as a school district when you have state cuts, and then you have those are hitting us significantly at the tune of some $4.1 billion in their state cuts in the last 6 months, I think, somewhere around that. And then our investment to get ready to open schools. And we had a great dialogue around the idea that schools are really the scaffolding of the economy. For the economy to move forward at the pace that we want it to, and to reopen and do everything we're hoping that it does and grow, we have to have schools moving forward as well, so parents can get back to work, and we're also investing in the future. And our businesses are continuing to connect with us as partners. So that was a nice conversation around that and framing that up. Where that goes next, we'll see, but we're at least positioning those conversations and putting those on people's radar to see education and public education specifically across the state as one of the largest employers across the state. Not just as these individual 600 districts, but you have one of the largest employers. And so how are you investing in that so that we are continuing to do the work that we need, and having the appropriate tools and materials to open back up safely. So some great conversations. We had several others this week with local officials as well, but those are just some highlights from this week.
Thanks, Jonathan. Item number 23, administrator commentary.
This week for administrator commentary, just because of the position of where we are in the space, I'll try to capture some of that just for our team. But one thing I just want to do and take a second to recognize is, we've recognized lots of people for the work just working through, but the team that I have here, and you'll hear me say this, I'm super lucky, and I say this a lot, that there's seasons of life that you get to be on a team that's just like the dream team, and I've had a couple of those seasons here at Mason. When I was a innovation officer, I got to have that season, and then I get the pleasure to work with these outstanding leaders every day, and we spent hours upon hours in room 108, room 108 very well, when this all broke, and we sat there into the evening hours just turning wheels as fast as we could to just prepare and to plan and to think and to ask tough questions, to be honest with each other, and to practice living with COVID in our space. And they're not easy decisions, because we're not making decisions that are just instructional decisions. They're about people's lives and their fears and how do we bring people together. So I just give them a lot of credit. Tracy, we know Tracy has communications and all the things that she does, but she also, a lot of people don't realize, leads the DEI work. And that is a hard, that's work that is heart work. And so leading that work and working with Soroy and the team and doing some of that work and the things that she does to prepare us and position us well for that, I just want to make sure that people recognize the work that Tracy's doing in that area, and all the exciting things on day one, and promoting all the videos and making sure that Jonathan says the right things on video. People always say, Jonathan, your video is great. I'm like, hey, I just have a coach right over there, and she makes sure that it comes across just the right way, and I appreciate that about my colleague. And Tanya, the work that she's done to make sure not only that we have the right employees in place, but that we also are being just very thoughtful about attracting diverse staff members to our, and that's something we've been asked about from our public. We've tried our best, and Tanya's really been very careful and thoughtful about that, not only in the process of attracting talent, but in the questions that we ask our talent when they're at the table, and really pressuring to make sure that we get the right people that have the right heart for the work. So I appreciate Tanya. And not only that, but she answers questions. I mean, you could imagine the questions she's getting right now about employment and can I take leave, can I not, and just some of the new law that she's kind of working through, so I thank her for that. Todd, you've heard him talk about the custodians, but custodians look to Todd for direction, and all the other classified staff that's always looking to him for direction. And I mean, Todd's probably purchased more hand sanitizer than he ever could imagine a person could purchase in one lifetime. And proactively getting ready and making sure, like today, he made sure these were in place, said, Jonathan, what do you think? I mean, it's just like everything around safety and operations, and then busing and selected Mark to go into our transportation. And I told Todd, I mean, it's the first time in my whole time here that our transportation is just, and so he's really got that tuned to a nice place. I'll highlight Amy and the work that so Amy works with Chrissy Huffnagel and Shauna Beamer, and the work they're doing, not just to prepare, but the work behind the scenes, it's like 24/7, because we're literally, we launched an online school, and we launched the most different in-person learning experience ever. So the work they've just tried to get off the ground, I can't even begin to tell you the hours just to get that right. And that work that Amy's leading is directly connected to what Christine is doing. And Christine, I mean, I wish I could just give all of our folks just a breath of air, because they haven't taken a breath this whole time. But she is working to get not only systems up and running, because she runs culture and leads culture work and all that, and Amy's leading this personalized learning work, but it's like the data systems. It's making sure our data is coming through. It's making sure that the data dashboard I was showing you today, Christine's programming that to make sure that's coming up the way that we want it to, so we can make quick and thoughtful decisions about data related to COVID and other things. So I just want to highlight our team, because Sean and I have the pleasure of working with our team, and they knock it out of the park all the time. And I know they always highlight what they're doing in their work, but I can't say enough about what they do. So I could go on, and I know we're going to clap for them, and they don't look for that, but I appreciate it.
I didn't look at them when I did that, because I was probably very uncomfortable.
So I'll stop rambling on about that. The only other thing that I'll say, since I just have a moment, is our staff, we just completed the first 2 days of something people thought was impossible. I had colleagues from around the state say, you won't be able to open. We're never going to open. This isn't what we're going to do. And I'm not kidding. There are moments, and I'm sure all of us felt it, like the things that we had to cross off to get this done. It did seem at one point in time impossible. I mean, it really did. At first we looked at it and said, there's no way we can do this. And then we just said, let's take it one step at a time to get this done. And we started chunking away, and then we started seeing like, okay, we can do this. And then we started, and the custodians started coming back, they were at work. And so it's just taken, it's been a long journey to get to this point, but I'll tell you, it is being in the buildings and watching our kids, watching our staff thoughtfully approach that, and watching our kids online have an option to be online, and our online teachers just knocking it out of the park. It is just so, and I don't like to say proud or pride a lot, but I am really just, I'm humbled by the work that our folks have done to get this off the ground. I'm thankful to be in a district that's been able to do that. And I know the board allows us to do that and gives us the vote of confidence to do it, but can't say enough about our folks opening up this year. So I'll stop. That's more than I was supposed to say. Sean, anything else I should have?
Covered it well.
Okay.
Well done, Sean. Well done.
Correct me if I go off topic.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean and Jonathan. Item number 24, board commentary. Desiree?
I'll be brief. I know this was a long agenda to get through tonight, but one of the rainbows that I really have enjoyed seeing coming out of all the crisis, so to speak, is the new way of thinking about doing things, and the things that you think would never work better than you ever thought would. It was like my children both really enjoyed the phase in, half the kids at school on Monday. And I mean, I hope that's something we can, contemplate proceeding with in the future, because they did. I mean, both of them really commented on how come my daughter's a freshman, so coming in as a freshman, the anxiety, and not being able to walk your class schedule and all that, and it was so refreshing to have that one-on-one orientation with a small group, and I don't know, the diploma delivery, you know, we were forced into a bad situation, and it really turned out, it was so fun, and it seemed like the kids really enjoyed it. So all the things that we got to try during this pandemic, that turned out to be really a rainbow in the midst of the storm. So I think it's exciting, and just to see the kids getting back to school and how well it worked. Not that I'm surprised, because I know a lot of work went into preparing for day one, but man, it was great. So kudos to you and all of you and the teachers and the kids that, you know, this could be a stigma, and it's a stigma now if you're not wearing it. So it's really gelling together, and I'm happy to see that we're back and moving, and this almost seems normal in a weird way.
Thanks, Desiree. Matt?
Yeah, just quickly, I'll just say that it's walking through Mason Elementary with Jonathan today and seeing my own kids and just how they've lit up at the prospect of going back to school and having been in school today and bouncing off the bus like they normally do, just reminds you that what the heart of this work is, and just how much everyone is fed by the mission and interacting with each other. And so, you know, we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we're all going to do what we need to do to keep each other safe. And if it turns out that the science and the experts are telling us, and we use our own data and determine that it is safer for us to transition to a different way of doing things, we'll do that. But for now, it just is such a great reminder of the human connection and relationships, and the smiles on people's faces that you can see even through a mask or life-giving today. And that's just really exciting to see, and a great reminder of what great work it is that you all do on a day-to-day basis. So looking forward to a great year.
Thanks, Matt. Kevin?
Just wanted to point out one little event that happened a couple of weeks ago. The National Honor Society students took it upon themselves to try to do something for teachers, and what they came up with was to put together a little welcome pack, but more importantly, write each teacher a personal letter, and actually not just teachers, every staff member in the district. And so I got a little bit of a firsthand view of the response of the National Honor Society students to signing up to write the letters for the teachers. And I saw the Google Docs up and just start filling in. And they did it, pulled it together in a couple of weeks, and got those letters to lots of those employees that were, it meant a little bit more this year because of the work that everyone's done to get school started. So just want to thank the students. I also want to thank Mrs. Shuba for, being a great leader for that team and being flexible when, ideas like that come up at the last minute. And Dee Dee Messer, too, who jumped in and helped coordinate. It always takes a little extra help. And then overseeing all of that, in addition to her full-time job, her second and third jobs, Tracy also played a really important role in helping that happen. So hopefully in a small way, that was a nice thing that could help teachers feel good about starting in a time when they might have some anxiety. And that's my second point, really, is that we didn't talk about a lot of what other districts are talking about right now, and the rules here and how this is going to work. But I just encourage everybody to have kind of a positive outlook, to have an anticipation that we're gonna work through this, and to have kind of that posture each day, because it's going to take that. We're going to have some setbacks. We're going to have some anxiety that arises, but the biggest issue that we're going to face is fear, and we want that we want to be in a position to help alleviate that for as many people as possible. We've got students that are in class and we've got students that are online. This board fully supports that. Our entire community supports choices that parents make. We've been a board that's always want to provide choice for parents. There's nothing new here. If you're in school or you're online, you're part of the same team, and we're going to get through this together, and eventually we'll all be back in our buildings together. So, I know there may not be a lot of people watching, but if there is, and it can just help one person fight through a little bit of concern about how we get started here, I hope it's a positive message and supported by notes like those from the students who want to be part of a successful school year. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for the work. We did that a little bit tonight. We recognized some people. There's many quiet people out there that have toiled, teachers that have had to turn the ship around quickly. We've had teachers that aren't able to do the things that they've always done. They've had to switch gears and do something else. And I just want to thank everybody because we're here to support our students and our community, and I think we're on the right track, and really want to just keep that positive momentum, stay positive, and work our way through this. So thank you.
Hey, Charles, I know Kevin wouldn't want to end on recognition to his family, but I would like to point out that there were at least 2 Wises and probably at least a third who had a large part in the welcome back gift from National Honor Society too. So Kevin's wife Marcia, who spearheads so many great things for the district and worked so hard. But then his daughter Olivia, who celebrated her the last first day of any Wise child in the Mason City Schools District, who heads up the National Honor Society this year. Just phenomenal work and great leadership, and so sweet of them to do that.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Matt. Connie?
I'll be brief. I'll just acknowledge, Jonathan, your comment that, yes, sir, you do in fact have a dream team. It's a remarkable feat to start the year. And I haven't heard of a single issue, to be quite honest. Normally, if there are issues, someone from the board will hear about it. But I guess when you work with the dream team, you just got to open up and not worry about the problems because your dream team's got it. Sean, I'll include you in the dream team too, although you're the 2 of you are the board's only direct reports, but we know it's the masterminds that allow the dream team and their staff and everyone in the district to make this just such a special place. And I'd like to, again, thank the custodians and the staff for being here tonight and accepting our appreciation. That's probably one that goes unnoticed sometimes when they really do deserve the accolades. Great job. That's all.
Thanks, Connie. I will just add that thinking back to when the school first had to close its doors and we had to scuttle a lot of opportunities and a lot of programs that have felt like staples and traditions over the years, I think one of the first things that, personally impacted me as far as my interaction with Mason Schools was the invitation to listen to some of the government students at the high school give their kind of hypothetical presidential candidate stump speeches, and that's always a neat program to come in and be a part of, and that was one of the first things that got canceled back in the spring. And that was really kind of bummed me out more than I realized it would. And as we have fast forwarded now about five and a half months down the road, as we have seen a couple of our teams take the fields this past couple weeks, and as we gear up for the first football game this Friday at home in the stadium, it's going to be hard, even as somebody who doesn't have a kid or a sibling on those teams, to sit back from a distance and not be able to go and watch those things and not participate in those, just as a member of the community. That's one of the things that I always look forward to on the weekends in the fall here in Mason is, the Friday night lights, going and seeing our football team play, seeing our cheerleaders, our dance team, our our band perform at halftime, checking out our cross-country team on the weekends and soccer teams and all of our sports and stuff. It's going to be kind of a, sad thing in that respect, but personally, I think the only thing that would make me sadder is if we could not offer those opportunities to our kids and to our community. And I am just personally so grateful for the work, Jonathan, that you've done and the whole, administrative team here, to get us to the point where it is possible for us to put kids into those opportunities, put them on the field, let them pursue their passions. And I'm really proud of the way that the kids and their parents and the coaches have all responded. There have been a lot of hoops to jump through. We see press conferences sometimes out of Columbus, and the message is a very high level for anybody who's tuning in at 2:00 in an afternoon. And you hear, we're going to let kids play, we're going to let things go forward, we're just going to have a couple of, boxes for them to check and things. And then what doesn't get, put up on the big screen is the 12-page order that we have to sift through, in the days that follow, and to see just how much work our teams and our extracurricular clubs and things have to go through in order to pursue those opportunities. And we know that not every district has the luxury of having committed coaches, adults, students that are willing to sit down and put pen to paper, come up with plans and protocols, have the discipline to follow through on those plans and protocols, and do what it takes in this strange and unusual time to still go and have those opportunities and to go play and to go pursue the things that they're passionate about. We know that, they love to learn about calculus, they love to learn about, biology and things, but it's outside of the classroom days sometimes where we really see our students come to life. And being able to continue offering those opportunities and seeing kids be able to participate in those things, even if it means, we as adults don't get to go and sit and watch, ourselves. I'm really happy we're able to do that for our kids, and I really look forward to the challenge of seeing that through for a whole season and perhaps a school year, and really looking for that light at the end of the tunnel when we're all able to kind of exhale and be back together again and enjoy that sense of community. And in the meantime, finding new ways to experience community with one another, whether it's watching streaming online or coming up with creative and unique ways to honor those kids, the diploma drop off and things like that. But really just wanted to echo some of the other comments we've heard tonight. Hope we can enter this school year with a attitude of positivity, of encouragement, and excitement to embrace the challenge and the opportunity that lies ahead. So with that, any other discussion or commentary? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thanks, everybody.